Okay, I'm gonna call the meeting to order if everybody's ready. I will note that everybody is here today, all 5 of us. Did everyone get a chance to review the minutes of the June 12th meeting? Were there any corrections, additions, deletions?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
I wasn't here, so you all should.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We have 5 refund requests. Josh Jeffries, $6,316.79. Ricky McAleese, $2,669.55. Tula Malua, $9,541.03. David Mason, $6,783.28. And Michael Potee, $8,618.20. All of these are post-tax, and the total is $33,928.85.
I make a motion, we approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Didn't realize you were gonna be with us today.
Let's see. Is this today? End of the quarter?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
You didn't remind me you were coming though.
Oh, okay. Well, I was out of town the last couple of days. I should have done that, for sure. For sure. Actually,
Feels heavier.
So we get the B team this time?
You did. The A team is indisposed today.
Does that mean we have a lot more money? It's heavier?
It's heavier?
You know how
Is it
the
reflective of the portfolio?
The worse the quarter, the thicker
The thicker the book, because you gotta explain it, right?
you know that. Dr. Tucker? Thank you, yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, I will turn it over to you, Pat.
Okay, good.
Won't make you sit through the rest of our business.
Okay, well, thank you, good to be here. Yeah, Marshall's finishing his last quarter, and he and his wife in Springdale, so he'll be back. I'll be back. So we'll be together next time. Well, let's take a look at the book here. This is, to be honest with you, one of the strangest years I've ever seen in stock. It says a lot in that it's some things that are happening that are great and not so great, but I thought I'd share the performance with you first. You can see the plan was down a little bit for the quarter, down 1.7%. Bonds squeaked out a little bit of a gain, and then your stock's down 2.4%. In face of the S&P 500, which is large company stocks, being up 4.3%. So just kind of look across those three, the orange line compared to the other lines, which are other types of stocks. You did hit a $16.5 million level in your portfolio, so we're climbing up to records there, so that's always good to see. Let me share some comments about this, and then we'll talk about the composition of the portfolio. If you look at page 2, when you talk about the market, we have for years, when we talk about the large cap U.S. market, most of the time we're talking about the S&P 500, which is 500 mega large companies across the United States, and everybody kind of measures themselves against that. And so that's 500 companies, 500 stocks. Everybody knows what they are. Everybody knows how much is in each one of those stocks, and that's the index. And so you can either match it or you can try to exceed it. And we've exceeded it over the last 5 years, but not over the last quarter for sure. What's interesting about and unusual about this time is it's being dominated, and I mean dominated, by a few stocks. So the Magnificent Seven, is what you're called, are these. Not the top one, but NVIDIA, Meta, which is Facebook, Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. So this just shows the performance going back over the last year or so, but it shows that how many stocks are actually up during this period and how many stocks are down out of the 500. So only over the last year, only 14% or about 15 stocks have actually outperformed the index at all. The other 485 stocks have underperformed the index. And the reason for that is because NVIDIA and these companies have become so large. They're all over $1 trillion companies now and represent a huge portion of the market, huge portion, which is good in some respects if you own them. If you don't own all 7, you're gonna trail. And so over 90% of active managers are underperforming the market this year. Never seen that. And we fall solidly into that category. If you turn to page 3.
What was this one? SMCF?
Yeah, it's a small test. Yeah, I can't remember.
Okay.
I can't remember. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Not a common
Should've looked
name,
that
though,
up.
like
Should've looked-
NVIDIA or
No, it's not. It's not.
Facebook.
It's not. This chart on the left here shows the green line, which is those 7 stocks, and the performance since 2021. And if you look at the panel at the top there, the green shows the performance of those 7 stocks, and the blue line shows the performance of all the other stocks in the portfolio. So this has been going on for some time, and we've been able to keep up because we own 4 out of the 7. But NVIDIA has just taken off. You've owned it twice. We've made a lot of money in it twice and didn't buy it the last time it dipped, and now it's really taken off without us. So we regret that, but it has dominated the market. So the Magnificent 7, for instance, year to date, those stocks are up 33%, where without those stocks, the rest of the market's up 5%. And so that's really causing some consternation. You own Apple and Amazon and Google and Facebook, and do not own Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Tesla. Those are the 3 that you don't own. So what are the implications of this? Well, it will correct itself, but who knows when that will be. And it doesn't really have to correct itself in a catastrophe for those Magnificent 7. Many of those positioned with artificial intelligence for probably quite a bit of time. And they're earning a lot of money, and that doesn't have to change. But the rest of the market will have to catch up and can catch up. If nothing else, those companies will have become so overvalued that maybe people start putting money in other stocks instead, just to kind of avoid the risk for that. The top right chart shows you why that's happening. And the reason stocks go up, it's not politics, if you can believe it. It's earnings of companies. And the green line bars show the earnings increase of those 7. And the blue line of the other 93 stocks. So those stocks have been bringing in really large numbers, but you can see the expectations the farther you look out, Q2 24, and then the next quarter, and then the fourth quarter. It does seem like those stocks, their earnings are going to moderate, and the rest of the market's going to pick up. So we'll see about that, but that's what's happening. That's what's happening today.
How long has the S&P 500 been 500? Has it ever been fewer than 500? Or?
No, it hasn't. It does have different members in that they'll take stocks out that don't meet the criteria any longer, and they'll add others. But it's been around probably as long as I can remember. It's become the dominant index over the last 30 to watch. A lot of people think about the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Everybody knows that. Well, it's the same thing, only it's just 30 stocks. So most people look at this because it's a broader view of the market. The Dow, by the way, is just barely breaking even for the year. Well, on page 4, if those are doing so well, that means other things are not doing so well. And we've highlighted foreign stocks to you not doing well in the past so many times. We thought we'd bring something new in and show you something else that's not doing very well. And it's the smaller companies in the U.S. Stocks there. And the period of time when one outperforms the other, it waxes and wanes. If you look at this top right chart, it just shows you when the light blue line is above there, you can see that's when small company stocks are outpacing large. And then the navy or dark blue line, that's when large company stocks are outperforming small. So we've had a long time where large companies, and we know small companies will come back. Look at 1999 to 2005, that was an example. After the dot-com bubble, that's a good example because when the dot-com bubble burst in 1999 and the stock market went down, it was all those big tech stocks, Cisco and Cisco and other things like that. So anyway, we'll see about that. And also the earnings of small cap stocks are good. I guess the one last thing I would show you, this is a little bit of a convoluted chart on the left, but look at the bottom half where it says current PE as a percentage of the 20-year average PE. So PE is just a measure of how expensive a market is. So the higher the PE, the more people are paying for earnings, and the lower PE, the less. And so let's look at that blend column that's large, mid, and small stocks there. So at 134%, that means the average PE is 134% above what it's been over the last 20 years. So a third more than what it's been on average. So that just tells you large company stocks are expensive. And if you look at the bottom, small company at 101, they're not inexpensive. They're just about what they've been over the last 20 years. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I would think over the next couple of years we'd see some changes in that. Eventually, a stock like NVIDIA, which is deserving of its attention, but it's overvalued. That doesn't mean it can't stay that way. It doesn't mean earnings won't catch up and it continue to go up. All those things can happen, but now would not be a great time if you were managing risk to buy NVIDIA. Another thing is, of the 7 stocks, only 5 of them are positive. Apple's a little bit down and Tesla's way down. And those 5 stocks, in order to keep up with the market, you would have to own 8% or more of your portfolio in each of those 3 stocks. Mutual funds are prohibited from investing that concentrated by law. And a portfolio manager like us, we're not going to do that either. Put 8% of your whole portfolio in one stock. It's just not something that we can do because, as good as that's been, it can happen on the reverse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and it did in 2008. On page 5, the stock market being up as much as it is for the first half of the year. Now, there's a lot of information on this page, but I wanted to tell you, just because the market's up doesn't mean that it can't continue to go up. I think one of the misnomers that we see, if you pay attention to the news or people talking on the news, you'd think we were in a deep recession, which we're definitely not. The economy's in good shape, perhaps not strengthening, but it's in good shape, and so some good things can continue to happen. So this is the 24th time since 1950 that the S&P 500 has been up double digits in the first half of the year. In the second half, in 19 of the last 23 years, the market was up after being up 10. Now, I found this kind of interesting. 1 year after the market's up at least double digits, the market's never been down over the next 12 months. So it's always never until it happens, but I just wanted to show you going back to before 1954, the market's never been up more than double digits like it is and been down over the next 12 months. So we'll see. Maybe if it goes down, we'll bring this chart back in next year. And lastly, we talked about bonds haven't really helped your portfolio over the last. If we had been here 30 years, it would be that long. The interest rates have been so low, but now they've gone up. And when the interest rates go up, the prices of bonds go down. But so now what we're doing is we're buying bonds for you at 5% interest rates instead of 1%. So that's a great boon to you. It's going to help the portfolio a lot. It just hasn't helped yet. But it's going to. I just wanted to show you over there on the right. That's the measure of the bond market. You can see it's never been down as much or as long as it has been today. And so that's really, really unusual. And then this, you kind of got to be interested in statistics, which is, you have to be a little bit of a nerd to be in my business. Actually, a lot of a nerd helps. So, but it just shows you that you being the green here, the expected rate of return over the next 5 years is over 5% a year in that part of your portfolio. And that makes sense. We're buying bonds for you with a coupon of 5%. If we hold on to them until they mature, they're going to earn 5% a year. That would be helpful to your portfolio. Any questions about that?
What's the reason why are bonds doing? I mean, why is it happening to the bonds?
As interest rates go up, if they go up, so when they go up, the price of a bond goes down. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you owned a bond whose interest rate was 2.5%, and interest rates went up to 5%. What would entice me to buy your bond that's yielding, that has a coupon of 2.5%? You would have to discount the price in order for me to buy your bond. So when interest rates go up, the prices of bonds go down. And interest rates really from the early 80s, all of y'all are too young to remember this, when there's women in the room, you always try to say things like that. Interest rates been going down for 30 years until the last 3 years. Yeah, you think about it, interest rates got as high as 21% in 1982 and 1984. And although it's been kind of erratic, they've been going down ever since. So this is the first time that interest rates have gone up significantly since that period of time. And it's all related to what the Federal Reserve is doing. You know, they raised interest rates 10 times. And now at 5, and everybody's trying to say, when are they gonna lower? It does look like they're gonna start cutting maybe toward the end of this year.
So some of their language seems to be softening.
Yeah, it does. But we were saying that a year ago and 2 years ago too, so we'll see. But they really are signaling that maybe the next move could be down. So it's given us a time to buy some bonds for you at these level of rates, and we've been buying some that are longer term because we'd like to hang on to these for quite a while. It's less of a concern that interest rates are going to go to 10%. We don't think that's in the cards whatsoever.
What was the sentiment in the 80s when the rates were that high? Were people just hating the fact that life was that way, or were they accepting of it? I mean, now, you know, you hear of a 10% interest rate on a vehicle loan or something, you're like, good grief, I hope I don't have to buy one. But
yeah,
was it that way then too?
Yeah, the sentiment was the same. You know, there were 2 recessions, one in 1982 and one in 1984. So that was the reaction to interest rates being so high. And that's what happens. Like you're saying, there's only so many people that can buy a car with a 10% interest rate, especially with the prices of cars these days.
Yeah.
So it has a way of altering your behavior. Well, I'm gonna drive my car for a little while longer and see whatever. So it alters people's behavior. People worry about their jobs, all those things. So I think it was worse back then because interest rates got to 20%.
Yeah, they're way higher.
Yeah.
But it seems like they were at that level for a longer period of time where people might have just had to just accept the fact and going on with it.
I can tell you that there are a couple generations ahead of this last 2 that will tell you that a 3% mortgage rate is really, really low. You know, you catch somebody under the age of 35 or so, they think mortgage rates ought to be 3%, you know, and 6% or 7% is really, really high.
I'm trying to remember what our first interest rate was when we bought our house here. It would have been 1990.
Well, it was probably 10 or 12.
Yeah,
Something
that's
like
what
that.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, something like that.
And I don't remember thinking that was horrible, you know, for.
That's just what, and that was down some from what it was before. So, you know, probably, maybe you thought you were getting a bargain at the time.
That could be.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people kept refinancing as it dropped.
Yeah.
Because we bought our first in 86.
Yeah.
The average in 1990 was 10.
Okay.
On the 30-year.
All I've ever known is 2 and 3 on my.
Yeah,
I know.
I know. Well, rates are now at 6.5% or so, maybe a little bit more than that. And if the Fed starts lowering rates, I think that rate will come down some. Maybe we've seen the peak in that. Inflation, which got to, you know, in double digits in the early 80s, got to 9% here this time. So, and now it's running a little bit less than 3%. So everybody said, well, that's good. Well, prices went up that much for 3 years. Prices went up 20%. Plus, depends on what you're doing. If you're eating out, they've gone up a lot more than that. And or different things, you know, whatever you're buying. So people are having to adjust. Prices just, I hear people talk about, unfortunately, I have to identify with driving through McDonald's because I like to do that from time to time. But, you know, I went
They're bringing the $5 deal back.
Yeah, they have done that. They have done that. Well, I'll tell you a little indictment on myself. I like a fillet of fish from McDonald's. And believe it or not, it's their lowest calorie sandwich on their menu, so I'm trying. So I went through just last week and got the meal, with a small fry and a small Diet Coke, and it was $9.45. And what was added insult to injury is they shrunk the sandwich. The fillet is smaller and the bun is smaller. It's noticeably so. They call that shrinkflation. So, I'm fortunate that that's just makes me mad. But there's a lot of people that affects their budget.
It really does.
Yeah, a lot of people like that. So, it's a harder time now for people with moderate income than it has been in a really long time. So, a lot of people not doing that well.
I noticed there's one kind of a fast food place, but they have a good salad. And the dressing they give you, there's less. Like they've shrunk the size of the dressing they give you.
Yeah,
Which you think, why are y'all doing that? But if you go ask for one, they'll give you another one for free.
yeah.
It's like, what's
Yeah.
the point?
Well, they're just making sure they don't give you two and you don't use one, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever. Well, lastly, let's turn to page 7 here and kind of show you what's going on in the portfolio. The structure, asset allocation of what you're in really overall hasn't changed that much. You can see at the top left, you're at the bottom end, still in bonds. Although we have been buying bonds, you did get below 20% at one time in the last year or so. So that's kind of looking the same. And then, but we have, we're not just sitting here trying to think of, what should we do next? We're managing the portfolio because one of the things that happens in a time like this is it presents opportunities to you. And those opportunities are in stocks that maybe haven't performed as well or haven't performed at all. And so we bought Keysight Technologies, which is a technology company of helping large companies. And Dollar General, I used to be a big fan personally of Dollar General. I'm not quite so much anymore, but they're in a turnaround situation, which I think they need to be. So we think there's some opportunity in that stock that's down a lot, more than 50%. And then stocks that have not done well in your portfolio, well, our attitude is, well, okay, we got to do one thing. We got to decide, did we make a mistake? Let's get out of it, cut our losses, or is there a reason for it to continue to hang on? And if it is a reason, is there a reason to add more to it? So we added to EPAM Systems, Align Technologies, Ulta, and Salesforce there. Ulta, I didn't even know what Ulta was until I saw it on my credit card. It started hitting a lot.
Oh, my.
So it's been a while since I learned about that, but it all happened at once there.
What is Salesforce?
They're the largest CRM software company in the world. And so.
We used to do it at UCA.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And even other CRM are kind of based on Salesforce there. So it's technology to allow companies to communicate with their employees and customers better. Yeah, it's a big word. They're close to being one of the Magnificent Seven. They're close. And then two stocks that have, Alphabet, which is Google, that has done really, really well. It became over 6% of your portfolio, and that was an example that we needed to cut back on that some, and we did. And Visa, which has been in your portfolio for 10 years, hasn't done quite as well over the last couple of years, and we reallocated some of that capital somewhere else. And then we sold BlackRock, which is the largest money manager in the world, and Constellation Brands, which is essentially a beer company, and some wine. Decided to get out of that. Hadn't been doing as well. Any questions about that? And you can see your holdings there on the back page. So about 10 million of your 16 million portfolios come from appreciation in the value of your positions. So that's just a testament of what happens if you hang in there for a long time. Lisa, you mentioned about us being here this quarter. We have 3 portfolio managers that can come to your meeting, and all 3 are going to be out the next October.
Whatever the October meeting.
Yeah, whatever. And I just wondered if we could come either in September or November. If that would be
Sure.
acceptable with the committee. Well, should I just remind you when we get closer to that,
Yeah.
which one that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which would y'all rather have him attend?
Oh, it's in November.
I would agree with that.
I think November.
Okay,
November.
okay. A little longer, let us short, instead of a little shorter. That's good. Thank you for letting us do that, Tony. Not to let that happen too often.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Appreciate your business.
Good to see you
See
again.
y'all.
Okay, we have one person who has submitted a request to retire effective August 2nd. His name is Stephen Griffin. He is a commercial driver at sanitation. He's been here 20.2 years.
Wow.
He'll be 62 in September, so I'm sure that's part of why he picked that date. And he's eligible and wishes to retire. We're gonna hate to lose him.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Does anyone have any new business for today?
Nope.
If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
You're so
All in
right.
favor?
Aye.
Hi.